This is the QB Huddle Podcast, hosted by Tim Smith and Brandon Newey.
Welcome back to the QB Huddle Podcast. I'm Tim Smith, joined as always once again by my podcast partner, Brandon Newey. Brandon, welcome back after being gone last week. We missed you. Lauren Morales did a great job standing in for you.
Yes, he did.
We'll have him back on the show. We're here to talk all things quarterback all season, and let's start with you, Brandon. Is just coming back. I see you've got the World Series hat on. That's has nothing to do with quarterbacks, but that's okay.
We here, the champs, baby.
I want to start with you today because the 49ers won a game. Holy moly. Everybody picked against them. They finally did it. They went down to Jacksonville and got a win. Talk about how they got the win. How did Brock play yesterday?
Man, I can't believe you guys picked against us, which, I mean, I guess this three game stretch didn't look so well, right?
It didn't look good.
We're getting some of the cobwebs out. We got our guys back, Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel. That was really good. I think Greenlaw is still a little bit gimped up, but it was the 34-3 blowout. I mean, we made Trevor Lawrence look irrelevant, right, to a degree. The very first play was a sack. After that, it was just downhill for them. Now, granted, you know, the only thing I'm going to say that I still think we need to improve on is for third down. You know, we were 4-12 on third down. That's not very good. We've got to get better at third down, sustaining those drives. However, there was a couple of holes. There was some offensive PI there. So you get back down the chains. Shanahan, it's hard. As you know, you and I both know, it's extremely hard to call plays on third and second and long. I mean, that's you just got to get out of there, right? Our punter did really well by putting them in those situations, but our defense was amazing. I mean, 5 sacks, 2 INTs, 2 forced fumbles. Probably have played the best I've seen in a very long time. I mean, just all across the board. I think having Steve Wilkes on the sideline gives a little energy. The OG needs to come down from upstairs and get down in the mix with these guys. I think that's what we were missing too. Also, the addition of Chase Young. I thought that was great. But on the offense, I mean, Brock Purdy is – if you protect him and you catch a lead, it's going to be damn near impossible to beat him, right? I mean, I think that kid is he's so poised. He's so good. And people are like, oh, it's the system. Well, he was putting up some pretty good yards during that third game, during that 3-week loss stretch, right? Yeah. But, you know, it's unfortunate. The kid's got to learn. We've got to go through his growing pains. The fact that he says, hey, last game was on me. I got to do a better job. And by him just holding himself accountable, I think that's good because that just shows his leadership and just shows his maturity compared to a lot of other quarterbacks that would have probably said more, we got to do this. Nah, bro, it's you. Right. So that was good. Christian, though he didn't have a TD, you know, he still made an impact with over 95 rushing yards. It's just so good to have all the boys back. And let's just see where it goes. Again. Yeah, let's just see where it goes. You know, I'm not going to say, oh, God, we're the best team. But if we can play with a lead and we can suffocate you, you won't beat us. It's going to be hard to do it.
Okay.
What about your guys, man? Y'all had a blowout, too.
Woo. How about that? The Cowboys beat the Super Bowl-bound New York Giants.
The best team ever.
Not the Super Bowl-bound New York Giants. They had Tommy DeVito at quarterback, who the best line I heard this morning on the sports radio show or sports TV shows was Tommy DeVito played smaller than Danny DeVito, who we know is about 4'2". So Tommy, lives at home with his mom. Hopefully she baked him a nice little cake after the butt whooping he took last night. It was awful. We expected that, though. Dak was great, as you would expect. The defense, special teams, all making contributions. Sure. 26 of 35, 404, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. The interception was early in the game. He's playing great. Yep. He is playing probably the best quarterback I've ever seen him play outside of his rookie year. But the problem still remains. He has not beaten a team over 500. The Cowboys have not beaten a team over 500. And last week when Dak had a chance to be elite and be the guy and show a clutch gene and have it at the end of the game in Philly, he did not pull it out. And so I still have concerns for this team when we get into the playoffs because we do this to the Giants every year. So
Right.
While 98% of Cowboys Nation is yelling Super Bowl and we're the best, and Dak should be MVP. Maybe. I mean, maybe he could be MVP. He certainly has better numbers and is doing more for his team than Lamar Jackson is, who we want to already crown as MVP midway through the season. So maybe he is in that conversation if they continue to win, but not until he beats a team that's over 500 and bound for the playoffs. I think that's the difference. Our schedule's weak. Next up, we've got the Panthers on Thanksgiving. We've got the Washington Commanders. Now, we do have to play the Dolphins down the stretch. We do have to play the Lions down the stretch, and we do have to play the Eagles again. So we're really going to find out about this team in December this year, I think. That's my take on it. Yeah, the next two games in November are going to be two more easy victories, and we're going to be feeling great. But what are we going to do when we have to play the Detroit Lions? What are we going to do when we have to face off against the Eagles again? If we can win those games, then I think that we put ourselves in a good spot, and we can talk about how far we're going to make a run in the playoffs.
I think you guys are one of the few teams that when you jump up on a lead, man, you suffocate teams.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel the Niners are that way. I feel the Ravens are that way. Also, the Chiefs as well. I mean, you just suffocate teams. I'm not sure how the Eagles, if they're truly suffocating teams, but I just know when your team gets a lead, the Cowboys or Niners, or you get double-digit leads, man, it's almost damn near impossible to beat you.
Our defense is very,
they
very
suffocate
good.
You, right?
What I liked yesterday is that we showed we can run the football. And it wasn't just Tony Pollard. It was number 23, Adawi, I think is his name. He had a great game yesterday. I think when we continue to run the ball like that, we can see it opens up Dak to have big games. And now, granted, again, I'm excited because it was a great game. Dak was extremely accurate. He was delivering the ball downfield to CD and Michael Gallup, and he was spreading the ball out. There's no negative there. But again, it was the New York Giants. So I tend not to get too excited because we still haven't beat a team that's headed to the playoffs yet. So that's my problem.
Right.
So
okay, got you.
Yeah, it's not a problem. It's more, you know what?
You would have thought y'all won the Super Bowl.
I need to constrain my excitement. I want to get super excited. I'm going to be really excited when we play some of these other teams in December, and then see how we fare against those guys, right?
Right.
So that's enough about the Cowboys. We'll see what they're going to do in December. We had some decent quarterback play, I thought, during the week. We had a couple guys that really stood out, but who was simply on fire for you, Brandon, this week?
Glock Purdy, my man.
It's the
he didn't look like a little 22. He didn't look like a little 22 Taurus. My man came out firing. I mean, it looked very efficient. He had a great day, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. 70% completion, almost 300 yards. He did put up the higher passer rating this week, which is phenomenal. That dude's, when he's protected and he's got his guys in line and he's in sync, it looks just as good as anybody out there, man. And so kudos to him getting back on track offensively. I also think Dak Prescott, man. Dak Prescott, despite you may think the Giants are poo, yada, yada, yada. But, okay, my man, 74%, right, over 400 yards. He broke a Cowboys record, actually, this week for the most 400-yard games at 10, which is great. 4 TDs. He did have that 1 interception, but I think Dak is doing a good job of really just delivering the mail, getting those 3 other receivers involved, Gallup, Cooks, as well as CeeDee Lamb. He's rising to the occasion. He's got 3 straight games with 10-plus catches, 150-plus yards, which is phenomenal. I think Dak's doing a great job, but attest to what you were saying, can you do it against 500-plus teams? He has failed to do that yet, right? So, and a lot of quarterbacks have. So I think we scrutinize Dak so heavily, but I think right now you got to appreciate what he's doing, because if he was playing bad against these teams, then you have to really question, right? Yeah. Those are my 2 guys. Yeah, those are my 2 guys, but I know you got a couple of guys as well, too, who played phenomenal, probably that Detroit Chargers game.
Yeah, I'm going to take us to one game, man.
That was insane.
Out in L.A. I mean, it was the best quarterback duel I think that we've seen this year. Both guys 100%. Were on fire. Goff was 23 for 33, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. By the way, we'll talk about him a little bit later in our Brady moment because he did set up the winning field goal. Justin Herbert, 27 for 40, 323, 4 touchdowns. He had the one pick, though, that maybe was the difference in this one. Almost 700 yards of total passing between the two quarterbacks. An absolute clinic. And really, both guys had Brady moments, but unfortunately, Goff was after Herbert's. And, my wife said it as we're watching the game. She said, apparently, whoever gets the ball last is going to win this game. And that's pretty much what happened. It was phenomenal to watch. I love watching the ball get thrown all over the yard, and why not? I thought that those two guys really brought it. They've been playing great all year. Justin Herbert has no defense behind him. I think we see that. Apparently, the great Lions defense didn't show up either yesterday, but Justin Herbert is better than your average quarterback. So, if you watched any of that game, what did you take from it?
Man, these guys almost had 1,000 yards total combined of both offenses. Chargers gave up over 500 yards of total offense. So did the Lions, just a little bit under 400. But just to attest to those guys, Justin Herbert, as much as we can knock him for not having a clutch gene, he did what he needed to do in that time. He just left a little bit more time for Goff. I have a little bit more experience with that. The running game was really churning. But Herbert made some throws that I've only seen like John Elway and Michael Vick make.
Fair.
That 40-yard in-break route on man coverage to Keenan Allen, and that was a bullet. And then he threw one in a cover 3 seam roll, right, where he just threw it and put it in a perfect spot amongst, split the defenders. It was wow. I'm glad I have both of those quarterbacks on my fantasy team, which I am in the run right now for the top team on both sectors. So
that was a heck of a game.
Yeah, what's crazy is I have Justin Herbert and I have Jared Goff in the Pay Me Fantasy League. And I was debating on who to start, right? Despite Goff having a really good game, Justin Herbert gave me 39 points.
Oh, yeah, Justin Herbert's numbers were a little bit better.
And then Jalen Hurts is on a bye week, and then I put in Brock Purdy, and Brock Purdy put a 30-piece. I'm like, my gosh, look at this. So it's been looking good for you.
Pay attention, those guys. And ladies, pay attention at the end of this. We got the fantasy pick-ems from Brady.
Rolling.
And he's rolling right
now.
There you go.
Rolling.
No, it was great. I had the 4-square game up, so I had the Cowboys game was down in the bottom left corner. The Chargers game was up at the top. And then once Cooper Rush came in the game, I immediately made the Chargers game full screen because that game was going down to the wire. So I wanted to watch that game. Well, let's roll out that garbage juice bucket. We love the garbage juice because that's where the worst quarterbacks in the league go. This week I have a couple, but I want to defer to you as usual. Who was in the garbage juice for you this week?
Man, the number one guy to me is just – it's very disappointing that you see this from this guy. And you thought he was going to be – did we know he was going to be the dude? I don't know. He had a really good rookie year, but after that, he has actually been straight trash. He's not that guy, pal. And we're talking about Mac Jones. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. He's not that guy. Even though he was 15 to 20, those 2 interceptions in the crucial moments, Bill Belichick pulled him out of the 2-minute. That just solidified it to me that, God, you can't get it done. You've only had 2 fourth-quarter comebacks in your entire career, which is your job. You're getting – what do you get paid for? Third down and 2-minute drill. That's what you get paid. That's what you get paid for. Granted, he's on his rookie contract. I think he gets out. I'm not saying he's a terrible quarterback, but I'm saying maybe his confidence is a little bit gone because he had to go through several different coordinators, right? Bill O'Brien, when have you seen Bill O'Brien just go crazy on the sideline outside of that 1 year with Tom Brady?
Right.
Never. And, my man is punching, the iPad there. And
oh, my goodness.
Mac's body language is just the way he carries himself. I'm not really fond of him. He's known as a dirty player, too. I'm also going to say Will Levis, man, my other team, Tennessee Titans. You played a Bucs team that is in the bottom half of the league, actually one of the worst when it comes to defending the pass.
Yeah.
You rushed for 25 yards, but you were 48% completion, 1 interception, and you only have 6 points, my man. This is what I'm seeing. So again, Will Levis coming off that first game, big boy throws, shooting it all across the yard. I just need to see you step it up, man, or else your ass is going to be in the garbage juice the entire season, brother.
Ooh.
So step it up.
Well, You know what? I went to one game because both quarterbacks were on fire, and in the garbage juice, I'm going to stay with that trend and go to one game. And we've already talked about Mac Jones, but I got to throw Gardner Minshew in the garbage juice this week as well. Gardner was 18 for 28, 194, 0 touchdowns, 1 interception. Man, that's not good enough when you're playing the Patriots, who are susceptible this year, and you're a team that is, Gardner, you're supposed to hold down the fort a little bit. You've had some good weeks, but
right.
Yesterday proved to us that you are definitely not the answer there in Indianapolis.
Nope.
So please come back, Anthony Richardson, as quickly as you can. 38% on third down for Gardner Minshew yesterday. So as bad as Mac Jones was, Gardner Minshew was just as terrible, and that was easily the worst game of the day. Luckily, it was on early in the morning. I had it up, but I was also playing some PGA golf on the PlayStation. So I wasn't really paying attention because it was so bad. It was just complete garbage juice. That's what it was.
We're forgetting one guy. Mr. Sunshine.
Oh.
Trevor Lawrence, man. T-Law, man, let me tell you this. T-Law is another one of these guys that haven't really gotten it done. 500 teams except the Bills. He had two interceptions, 58%, 5 sacks. We made him look like Mr. Irrelevant. Brock Purdy was the best quarterback on that field, and it was not close. It's big. I mean, we're enamored by his size, maybe his hair for Head and Shoulders commercials. But outside of that, brother, when it comes to playing good teams, you don't show up.
That's funny.
You don't.
He doesn't.
And so when you have Calvin Ridley, when you have Travis Etienne, when you have Christian Kirk, I mean, those dudes aren't average players. Those dudes can play. And
what if I told you the Texans could steal that division?
They could. And you didn't solidify yourself as one of those top guys. Because our 49er defense, if anybody ever watches the 49ers, what is our weakness? The secondary. And you made our secondary look like all-pro guys. You made our defense look better than we've ever looked in the Shanahan era. I've never seen nothing like it.
You are not
He's not. Prince. He's not. That prince of the division is Mr. C.J. Stroud.
Oh, man, C.J. I tell you what, C.J. is so good. I mean,
he's a problem.
You're talking about an MVP or an MVP. You're talking about a rookie that is playing at an MVP kind of caliber there in C.J., a guy that's outplaying several veteran quarterbacks throughout the league. So C.J. Stroud is he's amazing. I don't know where they came from.
Do you finally want to throw Lamar in the garbage juice?
No, I'm not throwing him in the garbage.
Nah, I ain't gonna throw him in, Nard. I'm not gonna throw him in, Nard.
Listen. If Lamar were to put up those numbers that he put up this week against, a worse team, maybe against the Colts, then maybe. But Cleveland's got a good defense. What bothers me about Lamar,
really good at defense.
I don't think he's a garbage juice. I also don't think he's on fire. I also don't think he's the MVP. I don't think the MVP can be given to the guy who does the least for his team and has. Let me explain.
Come on, bro.
Compared to these other quarterbacks, compared to what Herbert needs to do for the Chargers to win, what Goff needs to do for the Lions to win. There's other teams that have deficiencies, and your quarterback has to make up for that. The Ravens really don't have any of those deficiencies, and they're not asking him to do much. He's averaging about 200 yards a game through the air. He's got 15 touchdowns, but he's got 10 total turnovers. So to me, it's just not good enough for MVP. He's playing very well, and the Ravens may be the favorite team to win it all because they are so complete. They can run, they can play defense, and Lamar is the difference maker at quarterback. That's not what I'm saying. But if you take Lamar off the Ravens now, we saw the Ravens go to the playoffs with Tyler Huntley. I mean, you can hand off the ball and play great defense and get to the playoffs. Joe Flacco did it. Rex Grossman went to the Super Bowl by doing it with the Bears. The difference is Lamar can bring that it factor. Yesterday he just didn't, and you can't blame him for having one bad game, against an elite defense like Cleveland. But MVP, I don't think so. That's just me. He's not to me. He's not doing enough with mid numbers as a passing quarter. In the pass game as a quarterback, there's other quarterbacks that are playing better. So I don't know how just because the Ravens are winning, we can say he's the MVP.
Now I will say this. When Lamar jumps on you, he suffocates you. right? He suffocates you, okay? And he's played very well against 500 teams. Last week with Seattle, he's the only guy to literally expose the Browns, especially when he had that 4 total TD game. I think it was back week 4 or week 5, something like that. But I think Lamar's not asked to do much because they get up on people so fast.
Yeah, that defense.
And so when you
down.
see
Usually
the passing, the statistics don't tell the whole story. And so he's already set out in 2 fourth-quarter games this year.
I get that too.
There's numbers right there, and guys who are chopping at the numbers. I mean, look at Washington right now, Sam Howell. He leads the league in passing.
It's not about the numbers.
Sam is always playing from behind.
It's about the fact that you're number 1, number 2 defense, number 1, number 2 rushing game. You have a strong special teams. You have a great head coach. I mean, MVP should be who can that team not live without, right?
I don't think they can live without Lamar.
And we're going to have this conversation, but the 49ers lost 3 games in a row without Deebo Samuel on the field. Deebo comes back.
Or Trent Williams.
Or Trent Williams.
Yeah.
So to me, it's just who can I don't know. I think if you take Lamar off that team and put in another quarterback, I think you're getting the same results in Baltimore. That's my point.
I don't know.
Depends on which quarterback you're going to put in there,
man.
of course.
Lamar is, man,
I think Dak
he's the most dangerous player in the league.
I think Dak would have the same success there. I think Justin Herbert would have the same success there. I think Josh Allen would have the same. Patrick Mahomes would have the same. CJ Stroud would have the same. Heck, I think Justin Fields would have success if he was the starting quarterback in Baltimore, the way they run their offense.
Snap.
Jalen Hurts would have success in that offense because of the way that they play. Again, that's not taken away from Lamar. Don't get it crazy, all the haters coming at me, because Lamar does have the it factor, and he is.
They did say you don't like running quarterbacks in the comment last week.
Well, I don't need my quarterback running around a lot. That doesn't impress me. Like, if you can run, that's great. I don't need you to. There's CJ Stroud's not running all over the place, and he's playing better quarterback than most right now. So
yes, he is.
He can run though. So if you can run, that's great. Speaking of running, the next thing that we always talk about, who surprised us, I'm going to start this one off because Kyler Murray surprised me yesterday because I thought
back.
Coming off that injury of an ACL, I did not think he'd be as mobile as he was, as active as he was. And he really showed me his stats weren't great. 19 for 32, 249, 1 interception, 33 yards on the ground. But he made plays when they needed him to make plays.
The most.
And they beat a very scrappy Atlanta team that I think most of us on the Couch Coach picked Atlanta to win that game because not sure what kind of Kyler Murray we were going to get. And we got the very exciting, explosive, same Kyler Murray that we've always gotten. So Kyler really surprised me yesterday coming back.
Yeah, Kyler looked extremely well. And you can tell that he's got this big chip on his shoulder now. And so he is willing his team. That is one of the worst in the league. He's only won 1 game this year, even though they're a scrappy bunch. And to see him do it at home, to see him close that game out the way he needed to see him escape and just be elusive as he's always been, he still looks as fast as he's ever looked. And I was like, when he turned that corner, I was like, oh my goodness. Nobody can turn the corner like Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
It's just a different.
Funny when he runs.
He looks like a little midget running. He looks like a little kid like running, but it's so fun to see him get back, man. I know everybody scrutinizes him. I know Call of Duty comes out this month. So Kyler, shut that down and get back to playing your ball because you're one of the best explosive quarterbacks in the NFL still. And it's fun to watch you. But damn it, put that Call of Duty up, man, until Christmas, man. When Christmas comes, man, get on a little game, man.
Lord, watch some film. All right.
His arm's still good, too. I'd say the person that surprised me the most is my man, a.k.a. Mr. NASA, Josh Dobbs, man. I mean, kudos to this guy. I think what makes me love Josh Dobbs is his professionalism, his love for the game. He's smarter than everybody. He could go to NASA, which he's going to NASA to go on a mission to Mars next year. Yeah, and he's embracing these roles, but he doesn't get down on himself because it's like, oh, you've been to several teams and you're bouncing around, but you are having some success. And I think pairing him up with Kevin O'Connell and that youth I think this really can galvanize Josh, maybe for a potential spot, or if Kirk Cousins comes back, he has an opportunity. He has a good job. He's one of the top backup quarterbacks. He's going to make good money. They're going to pay
he
him.
Might be playing for that franchise spot. I mean, Kirk Cousins got to be out the door in Minnesota.
No, not the way Kurt was playing. No,
Kirk's playing great, but I mean that money. I think you can pay Josh a lot less, and he can be your franchise guy right now. I mean, you have a couple years to build, right? And you have money, and then I mean, Kirk Cousins. It was already talking about him leaving the Vikings at the end of the year.
Yeah, they have a really weird situation. They're winning games despite not having their guy, but they're on a 5-game win streak. And I think Exo can attest to this on the Couch Coach. They're going to have some issues, but they're good issues to have because they're winning, right? At the end of the year, if they make the playoffs, cool. If they don't, okay, cool. You still have a young guy in Josh Dobbs. You got a potential all-pro quarterback in Kirk Cousins playing the best he's ever played. He's coming off an Achilles injury. Hopefully he goes to Aaron Rodgers' doctor and get some of that dolphin spray or whatever it is that has Aaron Rodgers on another planet. Like, the dude is walking around like nothing's ever happened. And I don't think we've ever seen that before. I think Cam Akers was the fastest to ever do it with the Achilles injury. But outside of that, I think that's a good problem to have. You got a young quarterback draft coming up. Could you draft a guy or could you keep Dobbs? Would you pay Dobbs a good money to where, it keeps him away from NASA? I'm pretty sure they're going to want him to do that because you can tell that's his passion. He's a nerd with that, but the dude's a good football player. Like, he's a good football player, and that is a great insurance policy to have if you sign Kirk Cousins to a 2-year deal, right? And keep Josh Dobbs as an insurance policy. Yeah. Maybe draft a guy because you're not going to go early because you're already winning too much. Right. So do you get one of these guys that could fall in the second round like a Sam Hartman, right?
Ooh. That'd be good.
I mean, that it's a good problem to have, and I think XO would attest to that. I think it's a good problem to have. But
XO is in love right now. He is so happy.
Dude, I mean, I got to send you this video they sent. It was the Creed song when Josh Dobbs made this spin move and did all this crazy stuff. Man, it's fun to watch them. I mean, they're a fun team to watch right now. They got weapons, and Justin Jefferson's not even on the field.
No, sure not.
And they have just placed themselves second in the division. So,
yeah, they're right there. And certainly we've seen Detroit melt down in December. So anything can happen in the NFC North. The Bears and the Packers obviously out of it. But that is a 2-team race, and we could see 2 teams from that division in the playoffs. So as we approach halftime here, Brandon, tell us all. You mentioned it a couple of times. Tell us what's going on the Couch Coach and where people can find it.
Man, Couch Coach, you can find us on all platforms. We're going to give you a different insight compared to what we do on QB Huddle. It is more of a broad expansion on the NFL, weekly trending topics. We have our risers and our fallers. It's as we understand this week to week, it can be so long, right? And we get all excited about this one player, and then that player plays like crap, right? And then this other player rises. So we have a lot of different guests that come on as well, and the guests have done phenomenal. I think we're going to have a few other NFL guys jump on the show as we go into this third to fourth quarter of the season. But check us out on all platforms, man. We are really spitting some fire. It's been a lot of great banter, but we also do our research on things. So despite people thinking Stefan's quote, "We're halfway idiots," I think we know just as much. I think we're really good at what we do, and it's also been scary how we've been predicting these things.
And we may have crossed the threshold into 3/4 idiots instead of half idiots by now. We may
at least 3/4, right?
At least 3/4 by now.
I think right now we got a good show going. I think we're in the booth I think we're back in the couch this week.
Are we?
Or, I mean, I like Riverside, man. I can do this all day. I can sit at the house and talk ball. But we're going to bring you more content. Yeah, we're gonna bring you more content. I think we need to be in people's face a lot more on both platforms. So be looking out for these shorts, man. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. I was out in El Reno this week with my family, and they were all talking about, the Couch Coach and QB Huddle, how they really liked it. Which was awesome. It was good to see. So we got viewers coming in, man. Even if we got 1 or 3, 400, it doesn't matter. The fact is, you guys like it. I've heard nothing but positive feedback. also I've heard some feedback where we can improve on. So we're always looking to learn. This is a good experience for us in our first season. So shout out to them and shout out to XO for creating the Couch Coach. And we're going to be back, and we got a new week coming up on Friday. So we're ready for it.
Indeed. Yes, sir. Okay. Well, we haven't done this for a few weeks because there really hasn't been a lot of them. But everyone that has tuned into this knows that Brandon and I are big Tom Brady fans, or we're big Tom Brady fans, still Tom Brady fans. And what we loved about Tom Brady was the Brady moment, right? The clutch gene, to get the ball last, to go down the field no matter what it is, set up the winning field goal, score a touchdown regardless of what's been going on in the game, and have that moment. No one did it better than Brady, so that's where this comes from, the Brady moment. There was a couple of them yesterday. Who you got first?
Man, for the second week in a row, and I mean, I wasn't on the show, but C.J. Stroud has done it again.
He did it again.
He went into Burrowville, he rolled up a pack, and he smoked Joe Burrow pack. He had a few of them, and he was cooking. I mean, despite it being only 59% completion, it was a little ugly. But when the game mattered, he made 2 clutch throws in those last seconds. I mean, I think Joe Burrow left a little bit of time. It could have been sealed, right, if Tyler Boyd just makes the catch. And, Joe Burrow does what he does. But I think CJ arriving to the occasion, 2 former Ohio State quarterbacks battling it out in the place they used to go. CJ is putting that team on his back, and that team is feeding off his energy. That guy is very poised. He's only thrown 2 picks this entire season. He is 4-1 against teams over 500. And he's a rookie. I don't think I've ever seen that since Dak Prescott.
Well, and there's a huge difference because Dak.
Well, I know it's a huge difference.
At the hand of the ball too, and this guy CJ is doing it all with his arm, and he looks amazing doing it. He's poised. He looks like a veteran back there.
It was really good, man.
Stormed back, right? The Bengals did, because the CJ and the Texans got out to an early lead. They were up, I think, 17-3 at some point. Yep. The Bengals had to fight back, which they did. Joe Burrow throws what should have been the winning touchdown of the game. It gets dropped. CJ goes out with a tie game, and I had a bad feeling. It was like 133 left, actually, resulting in the game. And here it is. CJ's about to get the ball, and you just had that feeling like they can get in field goal range. This is not going to be an issue for them. And sure enough, 7 plays, 55 yards, right down where they needed to be, kicked the winning field goal. It's devastating to the Bengals. I mean, they're in a place where they with Baltimore losing yesterday, could have really jumped a spot. Instead, you lose to a non-division team that may be in the playoffs, right on the cusp, but you're a team that's supposed to fight for a Super Bowl. I'll be honest. Right. I didn't see enough from the Bengals as a team yesterday to tell me that the Bengals can compete with the Browns and the Ravens and the Bills and the Chiefs and the Dolphins, because their defense is so bad and their secondary is so bad. And CJ's been doing it all year, so credit to him for that. It was amazing. I'm going to take you over to LA and Jared Goff. We talked about this game earlier, but here it was. Herbert throws a dot for a TD to take the lead. Goff looks over to Coach Campbell. Hold my beer, Coach. Goes out there, 10 plays, 53 yards, 334 to set up the winning field goal, right? We thought that the game was going to be over, or at least go to overtime. I think it was tied. Herbert, again, amazing, but while he sits on the sideline and watches his defense allow the other team to go right down the field like he has so many times this year and in his career. But Jared Goff doing it when it matters most, and that's what you love to see. That gave me hope for the Lions. You went on the road and won a game like that in the fourth quarter. That gives me hope for them that they might be a contender in the playoff race, particularly if you have to go to Detroit. So defense didn't give me any warm and fuzzies. Thought that wasn't great. But how about Deshaun Watson? He had a little bit of a Brady moment yesterday.
He did.
Final drive versus the Ravens.
He did.
He went 13 plays, 63 yards, 455. Now, with 10 minutes left in this game, the Ravens were up 2 possessions. Now, there was a pick 6 in there. They got tipped, right? The ball got tipped off a defender's helmet. But Deshaun Watson gets the ball And every time he got the ball in the fourth quarter yesterday, he did something with it. Whether it was change field position, get a couple first downs, but on this case, he gets them down in position for the winning field goal. He's able to take a knee there at the end, which is nice to see. And then they come in, they kick the winning field goal, which, by the way, they would have the game would have been tied at that point had that same kicker not missed the extra point earlier after the pick six. So, wow, a couple of wow moments yesterday. Did you get to see any of that, Watson?
I saw a little bit of it, and you start to see flashes of Watson again. And everybody knows before all these allegations, that dude was on another planet playing ball, even with the Texans. You're starting to see this come back a little bit, right? But I know my boy Nard is going to really hate this, but Deshaun Watson kind of owns Lamar since college.
Why are we whispering that?
Since pro.
Say it louder.
Since I mean, low key, Deshaun Watson is 5-1 as a starter right now in Cleveland this season.
Well,
this season, he may not enamor you with all this stuff, but damn, dude. I mean, if you got that, could you imagine if they had Nick Chubb's back? Like, I mean, granted, Kareem is doing his job, Hunt is doing his job, Ford's doing his job.
Another team has a really good defense.
But they do, but it's always strange when you see Lamar versus Watson. Since college, he's got his number. If you go and look it up.
So can the Ravens beat the Browns in the playoffs if need be?
I don't know if the Ravens can play from behind.
Ooh.
I don't. I haven't seen it. The only time I really seen it was against Tennessee Titans in the divisional game when Lamar came back. I think he was like 8 or 10 points down, right? Yeah. Outside of that's one of those teams I've always said, man, if they get double-digit leads on you, they're going to suffocate you, just like the Cowboys,
that defense is
just
really
like
good.
The 49ers. Those teams aren't built to play from behind.
Let's not understate that Deshaun Watson was also hurt the entire second half yesterday.
Right.
He had hurt his ankle just before halftime, and he was seen hobbling around several times during the game. Even on that final drive, the referees had to make sure he didn't have to come out of the game on the one tackle where he got slung out of bounds. So he did everything he did in the second half on a very hurt ankle yesterday. So I don't know. It's good to see the Browns good again.
We're also missing a guy. He's up in the Pacific Northwest, and nobody really talks about those games. Geno Smith had a phenomenal 2-minute drive to win the game. He did his job. He had some really clutch throws, especially, on second and third down to Tyler Lockett and DJ Metcalf. That really put him in the field goal range to get it done. But instead of that, he threw a touchdown. And him and Lockett have this connection. Geno makes some big boy throws, man. He makes throws that I don't think people really look at. He throws one of the prettiest footballs that I've seen. He throws a pretty ball, right? So I think them getting that win, now they're 6-3. That puts them second in the division to the Niners. I think that was a huge win for them. But Commanders didn't lay down. Sam, I think, had over 40 yards.
Yeah.
Throwing the ball. And is Sam Howell the franchise guy? I think he is. I think you build around him. I mean, he's putting up a lot of good numbers. I mean, he's going to make his mistakes, but I think Geno, despite playing so bad the previous game against the Ravens, for him to respond the way he did and how he did it, I think it was definitely a good victory for Geno. So I would say Geno was definitely in that Brady moment. He was the only one of them that did score a touchdown in that Brady moment.
Woo! We had some good quarterback play in the fourth quarter yesterday. How about it?
I know.
Well, we are just about mid-season now, right? I think we might be a week or two past, but every week we try to give you something different in the middle of the show, and this week is no different. Let's talk about your mid-season MVP, Rookie of the Year, and Quarterback of the Year so far. Let's go with MVP. Who are you looking at?
MVP's tough. The more I think about it, the more it makes sense, but to the outside, it may not make sense. It's CJ Stroud. To me, it's CJ. And I say that because, yes, I understand the 500 team. They have a potential to win their division. He's doing this as a rookie. he's got the best touchdown to interception ratio of any quarterback. And he's already led 3 fourth quarter comebacks against teams over 500. And he's 4-1 against teams over 500. Now, granted, you say, oh, but he's not number one in this, number one in that. CJ's putting up top tier numbers. He looks like he's been playing this game forever. I just think right now, what he's doing, you have to throw him into the mix. I still can't say that, Pat Mahomes isn't still the MVP. Pat Mahomes finds a way to get things done. Bottom line. And to me, if you lose Pat Mahomes with the Chiefs, it's a wrap. If you lose C.J. Stroud with the Texans, it's a wrap. Right? And we still got to throw Lamar Jackson in there. So I got a couple of guys. I'm not saying, okay, this is just a stake and they're running away with it unanimously. I think it's going to be a tight race. Right? Okay. And so if I have a rookie of the year, it's definitely going to C.J. Stroud. But my preseason MVP right now, it's a tie between it's a tie between those guys. Because those guys just find ways to win. Granted, Lamar lost yesterday, but if they won, we're still talking about them.
You say we, like I'm in that conversation. I refuse to put a guy that is mid-tier in all of the quarterback stats at the MVP. I can't do it.
Dude, he gets taken out. They blow teams out, and he gets taken out in the fourth quarter. What do you mean you don't care? That's just pad stat in there.
Because you've already said it. The MVP is who can your team not live without? Man, you got the number one defense. You've number one, number two. You've got the number one, number two rushing offense, and you've got a top special teams with one of the best NFL head coaches in the league. I just don't see where Lamar is irreplaceable on the Ravens because they're not asking him to do much. Not saying he can't do much again, but they're not asking him to. So I don't see how he's in an MVP conversation when there's at least 10 to 12 quarterbacks doing more for their team than he is.
You realize, and you make a point, but you realize the reason why they're leading in rushing, right? People are terrified of Lamar to run.
But Lamar is in the pistol most of the time, and he's turning.
It softens the edges, man. Like it opens gaps up. Like it's because of him. It's because of him.
Well, I'm
like,
going to give the running backs
if Huntley was in there,
say they have a good offensive line. I'm going to give them credit too. I can't give all the credit to a guy that's not doing much. He's throwing about 200 yards a game. He's running for about 40 yards a game. And by the way, he's got 15 touchdowns and 10 turnovers. I'm including his rushing numbers in there, right? It's not good. That's a lot of turnovers to touchdowns, is it not?
It is. But if you look at to say they can win without Lamar, it's crazy.
They went to the playoffs without him last year.
They went to the playoffs because he won 11 games.
Okay.
Like he won 11 before he got out. They were already in the playoffs. Lamar is 18-1 versus NFC teams. Lamar wins 70% of his games, bro. You can't deny his greatness.
Lamar plays on the Ravens. By the way,
bro,
the Ravens
it's not like it's the Ray Lewis
team.
Ravens,
but they're still a good football team.
They're a great football team, but don't get me wrong. Like Lamar is that engine, bro. He's the heartbeat of that.
Listen, C.J. Stroud, you've already said it, is doing more as a rookie at the quarterback position for his team than Lamar Jackson is.
He has to.
Okay.
He has to. He's padding stats. He has to throw the ball 30, 40 times a game. He doesn't have an efficient run game.
Neither one of those
Singletary is taking a rock now from Buffalo. Lamar's playing with guys who are free agent running backs. You do know that, right?
I get it.
Not one of their running backs were drafted. The guy who was drafted has a it's a great scheme because Lamar is such a threat.
Again, see, this is what happens when you say Lamar's not the MVP. People get really upset. Again,
it's not that, but you have to be blind.
I'm not saying Lamar's not a good quarterback. I'm not saying he's one of the best quarterbacks. I'm saying when we talk about MVP race, you have to do more for your team than have average numbers. And by the way, in a big divisional game, turn the ball over in crucial moments, which is what he did yesterday. So
Joe Burrow did that too.
Joe Burrow's not in the MVP conversation.
He was last week, according to you.
Well, listen, I jumped the gun a little bit. I thought that he could work.
You always do.
I thought he could work his way up there. And
Hell
I didn't
no.
realize after watching the Bengals yesterday, it's clear to see that they're not a very good football team. They have good receivers, a great quarterback. Everything else around them is terrible.
I wonder why, because Joe took all that damn money.
The money, and they gave away all their secondary. So for me, the MVP is who can your team not live without? So if we were to go non-quarterback for a change, man, the 49ers lost 3 games in a row without Deebo Samuel or Trent Williams for that matter. Deebo shows up, 49ers win, and in blowout fashion over a team that should be in the playoffs in the AFC.
The hottest team in the league, might I say.
Deebo changes the entire offense for the 49ers, whether he's getting the ball or not. He changes everything, and he changes everything for the opposing defense. So I like Deebo in that conversation, but again, it's Mahomes to me because Mahomes is doing more with less. Mahomes has nothing around him outside of Travis Kelce.
I think Kelce's hurt.
Defense is getting better, but they're still not great. The offensive line is a mess. He has no receivers that are performing at an elite level, and yet somehow, some way, Patrick Mahomes is finding ways to get it done each and every time, and that, to me, is an MVP. If you took Mahomes off the Chiefs, they may not win a single game. Not a single one.
Now you say that. Okay. You do realize the Chiefs statistically are a top 3 defense.
I said they're getting better. They've played better over the last 3 weeks. Before that, they were
better.
Poor, were they not?
Better? No, they weren't.
They had the first quarter. They weren't good. They weren't good.
They've been rolling, dog. Since
I know the last couple weeks.
They've been rolling. Chiefs are they're number 4 ranked defense, and they only give up 288.2 yards a game, and they have great takeaways. This is actually in the Mahomes era. This is the best defense he's ever had. Because you remember with the Chiefs during their Super Bowl
first quarter, they didn't look like that.
No. Think about it. And I say this because if we guys go back in time, Pat Mahomes wins the Super Bowl 2 out of 5 years, right? Those defenses that he won a Super Bowl with, they caught fire in December. Like, they caught straight fire. And you all know the team who catches super fire in December is the team who's probably going to run away with it, right? And they've done this. But the fact that they've maintained this despite their deficiencies offensively, wait till they start clicking. It's scary because they're taking away. They're getting pressures. They're playing better. Steve Spagnuolo has got those guys really in playoff form right now defensivily. I mean, they shut down the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, I was rolling. They held the number 1 offense to 14 points.
So you're in love with the Chiefs defense?
I'm not in love with them, but this is the best defense Pat Mahomes has ever had.
That's fair.
And this is the less firepower he's had offensively in his era. So who is my what now?
Who's your quarterback of the year so far?
Quarterback of the year.
Quarterback, because they give that away too. So you have the MVP, you have Rookie of the Year. I think we all know that should be C.J. Stroud. And then you have Quarterback of the Year, who is perceived to be the best quarterback now by passing yards. Sam Howell has the most. That doesn't really tell the story probably of who the best quarterback is. Who's the best quarterback of the year to you right now?
That's hard.
It is hard.
That's really hard because I always focus on efficiency. That's just my thing. If you're efficient, I can work with you on that. But if you're playing big in the big moments and you're stepping up, there's only a handful that come to mind. But I'd say right now the quarterback of the year that is playing at God, it's crazy to say this. It's C.J. Stroud.
Please. Oh, okay.
It's C.J.
It could be, except they won't give him all the awards at once.
No.
I'd like to say it's Tua. I'd like to say it's Tua, but much like Dak, he hasn't beaten a 500 team. He's lost all the games against playoff teams. So that it's hard to say Tua, right? Jared Goff. But then he laid an egg in Baltimore. So it's hard to say Jared Goff because he's been great outside of that one game. Justin Herbert's been great at quarterbacking, but his team hasn't won a lot of games. Yep. So, and he's had opportunities to pull games out at the end and show a clutch gene, and he hasn't done it. Dak Prescott may be putting himself in the conversation, even though he blew it against the Eagles. He beats Detroit and Philly in December. He's in that conversation. Is he not?
Here's the crazy part. There's only 3 guys in the league over 70% completion. That's Josh Allen, that's Dak Prescott, and that's Lamar Jackson. Yep. Now, despite this isn't fanboy coming out of me, but outside of those 3 games, that dude in San Francisco is playing at a level that not a lot of people are doing. They're not. Like, he's had 3 boo-boos, right? He's had 5 trash passes.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
I'm looking at all the
numbers. Brock is literally had a perfect passer rating ever since he stepped in. He's had 3 boo-boo games, all right? Everybody has some boo-boo games. But outside of that, that guy has been more consistent than anybody I've seen. And CJ's only completing 61% of his passes, bro. I mean, he needs to be more accurate, right? And it's like, whoa, he's really accurate. I mean, when you're only completing 60% of your passes in a league where you're forced to push the ball all the time, and you got 3 guys that can go, you got to be better on that, right? You got to be better on that. I think that's the only thing I will say with CJ. Hey, build your percentage up, right? Start making more high percentage completions, right? We're not just being YouTube quarterback, but CJ is doing phenomenal. And I would also say, man, seeing the emergence of Joe Burrow over the past couple weeks, I mean, it's up for grabs. It really is. It really is. It's really hard to say. There's no guy that's just clearly running away with it. The guy who would clearly run away with it outside of those 5 passes is Brock Purdy. He would run away with this. I mean, he's got 15-5 right now.
I mean, okay, Tua's got 19-7.
Tua doesn't beat teams over 500.
Not yet.
Brock has.
Not
Brock's
yet.
done it plenty of times.
Josh has 18-9. Josh Allen is playing great. Jared Goff,
Dak Prescott's been balling, dog. Outside of the Niners game,
playing great. Dak's playing great. But again,
17-6.
You said it. You know, who knows what's going to happen. There's a lot of good quarterback play out there right now, I think. But we need to see some of these guys beat teams over 500. We need to see some of these guys finish out teams in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
So some guys just need to show us a little bit more consistency against good teams.
You know who has the number 1 quarterback rating in the league? And it's by a lot.
Who's that?
Brock Purdy.
Because I looked it up earlier.
He's got 109. The next one is 106, and that's Tua.
That's Tua.
I'm just saying, dog. And he had 3 little
Dak's
boo-boos.
3. I know Dak's at 3.
And Dak's 3. Yeah. Dak's 105. I mean, Dak's been playing good, man. I mean, I know people get a lot of slack on him, man, but that dude's a great leader. Just win versus 500 teams, and everybody will go away.
He'll have a chance in December, and this is very reminiscent of what they used to say about Romo, because they used to say the Cowboys, and it was true that the Cowboys' December record was never very good, and they used to put the blame on the quarterback. I'm not going to do that with Dak. What I'm going to say is, though, there's going to be some teams coming up, like we talked about earlier, that for him to ascend, he has to win those games. He has to. And he has to play well.
I mean, he has to. He has to. Now I think we've seen it with Purdy, but we need to see – I need to see these guys when they're trailing. Like, it's your team, my team, the Raven. They're kind of all alike. They get these double-digit leads and they suffocate you.
Golly.
Yeah, they suffocate you. But then they can't play from behind.
Right.
And it's like, but the teams that can play from behind are like the Texans, the Eagles, the Chiefs.
The Eagles don't play well from behind either. The teams that play well from behind are the teams that have the quarterbacks that can stand back in that pocket and deliver the ball consistently when it matters most. It's not the teams that are good run teams. They don't play well from behind, because look at what happened to the Eagles, right? When the Dolphins put them in a situation to play from behind in the fourth quarter, you get Jalen Hurts throwing the ball down the field more than he wants to. He throws a big pick, right? These teams that depend so heavily on the run game and the defense do not play well from behind, because they don't have those explosive offenses or those quarterbacks that can spread you out and all of a sudden just start chipping away at you. So
a lot of these guys don't have the patience for it. Yeah, a lot of these guys don't have the patience for it. I think the only guy that really has the patience for just taking what the defense gives you, chip away, there's 2 guys that come to mind: Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes. Everybody else doesn't do that very well. You get away from the play action, Jared Goff isn't Jared Goff.
No, he's not. He needs
Tua, when you get pressure in his face off of the first and second read, it's not really ideal. I can say Brock Purdy, you get to Brock Purdy, you start, if you can make him kind of buzz his feet and not get outside the pocket and make you look silly, they're going to get to him. Dak Prescott. Yeah, I mean, everyone's got a weakness. I don't think Lamar Jackson plays well from behind. I haven't seen it. I've seen it like maybe once.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I can go down the list, man. Just on a lot of these guys. Josh Allen, he's a turnover nightmare. Yeah. I mean, he just turns the ball over. But I think he can will your team to come back.
He can. He's got that.
I don't see a lot of these other guys. I don't see Jalen Hurts playing very well from behind.
Nope. He doesn't play good from behind.
Geno Smith. I mean, Geno's done it a couple of times this year. Baker Mayfield's done it a couple of times this year.
Baker's a competitor. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, he's a competitor. Derek Carr, absolutely not. I mean, I'm just looking at the list.
Did you see the hit Derek took yesterday?
Yeah, that was brutal.
It was high and low, and
he got
his head smacked on the ground. He came out with a shoulder injury and a concussion off the same play.
Yeah, Derek Carr is not that guy, pal.
No.
They paid him too damn much. Trevor Lawrence can't play well from coming from behind.
Not the Prince.
Matthew Stafford can. We've seen it a lot.
Yes, he can.
But he's just hurt. He's beat up. Mac Jones only got 2. I mean, you can just go down the list, man. You can go down the rabbit hole. These guys, when they get down by double digits, it's like 2 of these guys that can make magic.
Yep. I agree with you. I agree.
Yep.
Let's talk about next week, although it's kind of a down week in the NFL as we look at it right now.
Ugh.
But there are 2 quarterback matchups, and really for me, they're the same as the game matchups for next week. Burrow versus Lamar. Let's talk about that matchup because this is a huge game, right? Cincinnati coming off a loss, the Ravens coming off a loss, perceivably 2 of the best quarterbacks in the AFC. One guy up for an MVP. One guy was injured the whole first quarter of the season. And now this is a game that, to me, Cincy needs more than the Ravens do. But from a mentality standpoint, maybe the Ravens need this game, although 3-1 is what the Ravens are against a Joe Burrow-led Cincinnati Bengal team. So what are you looking at here? What do you think's about to happen in this game?
Man, it's one, it's hard to outdo Joe Burrow. It is. Lamar has his number right now.
He does.
However, he has his number. And I think if the Ravens jump out on a double-digit lead, they're going to suffocate them. They're going to suffocate them.
The word of the day is
Joe Burrow's
suffocation.
Suffocation. And I think Joe Burrow is one of those guys that if he does come back, if he has it down in double digits, he's going to find a way. Now, do you do it against that Baltimore defense? I'm not sure, man. I'm really not. I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. I think the Ravens run away with that. I think Joe Burrow, they're last in the division. I think if they lose this game, it's over. I think they know it.
Yeah, I think the difference between this Bengal team coming in and playing Baltimore and the Cleveland team is Cleveland can run the ball a lot better than the Bengals can, and they have a better defense than the Bengals do. The Bengals don't run the ball well. They don't play good defense. And so when you're going up against a team like Lamar and the Ravens who do both of those things very well, I think this is a mismatch. At least on paper, from a team perspective, it's a mismatch. And I do think Burrow could make it interesting like he did last week against CJ and the Texans. But I'm with you. I think Lamar and the Ravens are going to run away with this game and get back on track this week. But it should be a fun one to watch, and hopefully we'll see some fireworks in the fourth quarter is probably what's going to happen. I think both will put up good fantasy numbers. Maybe.
Oh, for sure. You got to start.
Burrow could turn the ball over, though. He turned it over again this week, and the Ravens are good at getting the turnover. How about Mahomes versus Hurts this week?
I love it. I love that matchup. I would start both of them this week in fantasy as well, too. I think getting Hurts is showing a lot better judgment from the pocket when asked to deliver more. Mahomes is obviously going to be Mahomes. He's going to find a way to do it, even if it's ugly. So you know that's going to be a close matchup. That is going to be in Arrowhead, correct?
I think it's in Philly.
Is it in Philly?
Let's look and see.
Really?
I thought it was in Philly, which makes it even more interesting. I think, Andy Reid going back to Philly, not sure if he's been there.
It's in Arrowhead, brother.
Okay, so it's in Arrowhead. So
then
the Chiefs are going to win that game.
Yeah, and I'm also looking at another matchup. I know it's not very flashy, but these two quarterbacks are going to go at it. CJ Stroud versus Kyler Murray. Kyler's out for blood, dog. Okay. I'm telling you, he got humiliated. Like, you got to think about this kid his whole career, man. He's been praised. Best Texas quarterback of all time. Played at OU, won the Heisman, went to the number 1 pick, won Rookie of the Year, went to a Pro Bowl. He got injured. He's in the dark. Call of Duty's not out just yet.
It is, though. You can pre-order it and play the campaign. He might be doing that.
Man, the campaign compared to Team Deathmatch, come on now.
I don't
Team
know.
Deathmatch is
I don't play Team Deathmatch.
I just play the campaign. My eyes aren't built for that.
Yeah. I'm not very good. I'm not very
My eyes
good at
aren't built
games
for that.
Online.
But yeah, I think that's a really good matchup, man. I think another solid matchup, honestly, could be Brock Purdy versus Baker Mayfield.
That's the 49ers show.
Hey, it's the 49ers, baby. We
should
back,
win
man.
that game easily. I mean, I could say that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys, I don't even know who we play this week. Oh, the Panthers, yeah. So Dak Prescott versus, what's his name? Bryce Young.
Mini-Me.
That's not a good game. That's a blowout. Bryce Young might die this weekend.
Good luck, man. You're going to.
He really should manufacture an injury in which he cannot play.
He needs to go start Andy Dalton this week because that's going to be bad.
Yeah, that's going to be bad. That's not going to be good at all.
That's going to be bad.
And these rookies, I can't believe C.J. Stroud went in and beat Joe Burrow. I mean, these rookie quarterbacks. They're not all playing great, but CJ.
It's not rookie. It's one rookie.
It's one rookie. You're right.
It's one
rookie because Bryce Young looks like I said he would look. By the way, and
he's just small, man. He's just small.
He's small. He's smart.
He doesn't turn the ball over.
He can process information, but he's little.
He's just small.
He's too little.
Small. He made some really
that's
good
our
throws
matchups for the week. So make sure you watch. Make sure you watch those games, and make sure you watch too. I mean, I'm a Bears fan, so Bears fans. We're looking to see for the next 7 weeks, do we have a quarterback or is that quarterback going to be traded? And, my dream scenario, I told Brandon earlier, is to go ahead and sign Jim Harbaugh. Go ahead and trade Justin away when you do that. Stock up on picks and then bring in J.J. McCarthy at like 5 or 6 and then build with offensive linemen and defense all around him. So that'd be great. Bears would be in the Super Bowl in 3 years if they bring in Jim Harbaugh and J.J. McCarthy. Anyway, we're going to move on. That's my bold prediction. We're going to go on. We missed this last week only because Brandon wasn't here, although he did text in his picks. So I hope you guys paid attention to that because based on what Brandon said earlier in the show, he was on fire with his fantasy picks. So from a fantasy perspective this week, Brandon, who should the folks be playing with?
Man, you got to go with Herbert. Against the Bears, you got to go with Dak versus the Panthers. I think Mahomes gets it done against Philly. I also think Hurts is going to ball too. I also think Brock Purdy is going to have a big day. I think Tua comes back off the bye week and has a big day. I think Goff is going to come and have a big day. I think CJ Stroud's going to have a big day. I mean, I'm kind of feeding you guys some jewels. So if you guys have Prize Picks, you guys have the Better app, DraftKings. Even in fantasy, man, if you got any of these quarterbacks, man, you definitely need to start them. I would definitely stay away from Deshaun Watson versus the Steelers. I think that is not a good matchup for him, especially with him a little banged up. I think Jordan Love definitely goes. He's not very good, so don't even think. If you even have him on your team, take him off. Zach Wilson, take him off. I would say Josh Allen versus the Bills. But Josh Allen, last time they met with the Jets, Josh Allen versus the Jets, he threw 3 picks. So, I mean, he may get it done. He may do some stuff. It's in Buffalo, whatever. But he's known to throw picks, and he's going to continue that. So, if you want maybe a 15 or 17-point game, feel free to do that. I think Geno Smith balls against the Rams. I would definitely stay away from Russell Wilson, even though he's had a pretty good season, a very sneaky season, despite them only being 3-5 versus the Vikings. The Vikings are a nightmare when you play them. It's just the way, Brian does that defense, and, they're sneaky. They disguise very well. They get a lot of sacks. I'd say stay away from Will Levis. I say stay away from Trevor Lawrence with the Titans. Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson, you just got to start them. I mean, those are just two guys. You never know what's going to happen. I would say I would feel safe with those. So it's a lot of stardoms this week, right? Yeah, not a lot of sit-ems. It's a lot of stardoms because these guys, they give up a lot, man. I mean, the matchups are crazy. So I think if you got any of these quarterbacks, you're definitely going to have at least a 20-point or more game with your quarterback.
You heard it right there from Brandon. If you want those 20 points or more and want a chance to win your fantasy league, pay attention to what this guy has to say because he knows what he's talking about. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the QB Huddle Podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and comment, even if you don't agree with us. Yes. Who's your MVP? That's what we want to know. Yep. Keep an eye out for the Couch Coach Podcast, which will drop later this week. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you to our incredible podcast producer, Marcus Watson. For my partner, Brandon Newey, so nice to have you back, man. I'm Tim Smith.
Good to be back, man.
Week on the QB Huddle Podcast. Tee it high, let it fly. Be great.